All right, today we're going to talk about tearing down the walls of traditional thinking. We're diving into a concept that's totally reshaping how companies invent the future: open innovation. It's all about changing where we think the best ideas come from, so let's just jump right in.
But first, I want you to really think about this question. Seriously, are all your big breakthroughs happening in the same conference room with the same people? For a long, long time, that's just how it was done. But what if your next game-changing idea is waiting just outside the door?
So here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about breaking down that old fortress model. Then we'll get into what open innovation actually is, and I'll walk you through the toolkit you need to get started. We'll also get real about the challenges before we land on why this whole collaborative thing gives you such a massive advantage.
Okay, so first up, let's understand the old way of doing things. You can pretty much call it the innovation fortress. For decades, this was the default setting, The belief that every single good idea had to be born, raised, and kept under lock and key, all within a company's own walls. And this slide really nails the contrast. The old fortress model was all about being secretive, siloed. You build these high walls, you keep all your smart people inside, and you don't let anyone see what you're doing. The problem with that? It's slow, it's rigid, and frankly, you're missing out on a world of ideas. The new way of thinking is to be more like a port city, a busy, energetic hub where ideas, talent, and resources are constantly flowing in and out. That's where you get speed, and that's where the magic really happens. So, if we're leaving the fortress behind, where are we going? Well, we're headed towards open innovation, which is really just about harnessing the incredible power you find when you start looking outward. And at its core, this is all it is. It's not about ditching your amazing internal teams. Not at all. It's about making them even more powerful. It's a strategy where you fuse the best of what you have inside with the brilliant ideas that are floating around outside your company. That mix becomes an incredible engine for growth. And this is where it gets really interesting, because who are these external innovators? Well, they could be your partners, of course, but they could also be your customers, the very people using your products. They could be scrappy startups that see the world in a totally different way. And believe it or not, sometimes they can even be your competitors, working with you to solve a huge industry problem that benefits everyone. All right, so the idea makes sense, but how do you actually do it? That brings us to the Innovators Toolkit, some practical ways you can actually make all this collaboration happen. A fantastic place to start is with innovation partnerships. This is where you formally team up with someone who's good at something you're not. So imagine a big retailer that knows how to sell stuff, partnering with a tiny tech startup that's built some amazing new AI. Together, they can build something incredible that neither one of them could have done on their own. Then you've got co-creation labs. Literally picture this: a space where your engineers are sitting right next to your top customers, maybe a few university researchers and a couple of startup founders, all working on the same problem. You get all these different brains with totally different viewpoints in the same room, building stuff together. It's powerful. Another amazing tool is crowdsourcing. This is where you take a really tough challenge and you just put it out there to the world. You're tapping into the collective brainpower of thousands of people. Think about how Netflix offered $1 million to anyone who could improve their recommendation algorithm. You find solutions you would never, ever find by just looking inward. And finally, there are strategic alliances. Now, if a partnership is like a project-based team-up, an alliance is more like a long-term marriage. This is where companies weave their strategies together for years to build whole new platforms or enter new markets, sharing all the risks and, hopefully, all the rewards. Now, look, opening up your company like this is not always easy. Let's be realistic here. It's really important to acknowledge the very real hurdles you're probably going to face if you go down this path. Yeah, there are a few big ones you'll almost certainly bump into. First, how do you protect your intellectual property? How do you open the doors without giving away all your secrets? Second is culture. A lot of companies have this not invented here attitude that can be really tough to break. And finally, you've got to make sure all these cool new ideas actually help your business, instead of just becoming shiny distractions. So if it's challenging, why do it? Because the payoff, what we call the collaborative advantage, is just so massive. This is why tearing down those fortress walls is absolutely 100% worth the effort. And the results really do speak for themselves. You get faster product development, you solve problems better, and you massively increase your creative capacity. But the real magic here is how all these things feed into each other. More creativity leads to a stronger culture of collaboration, and that culture becomes a competitive advantage that is so hard for anyone else to copy. And that brings us right back to where we started. So after all this, I'll leave you with this one question to chew on. In a world that's moving faster than ever, is your organization built like a fortress designed to protect the past, or are you building a dynamic hub ready to create the future? Because that choice is everything.